Good morning, my name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to look at the weekly energies today with the Monday's Musings on the 4th of August 2025, and I swear if I hold my hands any tighter I'm probably going to break a bone. I can sense a real need to hold on, to grip, to cling even to what is in front of us, as if there is some notion of control of the intangible. I don't just mean the intangible externally, or the uncontrollable rather externally, I mean internally. This morning it felt really important, and continues to feel really important, that I stick to what the intention is. Not to remain focused, although that is obviously a byproduct of remaining aligned, but to connect, yes, connect with the vibration of what it is we are here to offer, rather than control. There's a great difference between trusting the process and claiming to trust the process, yet still navigating it to our own ends, particularly this week, particularly as we go into the eclipse season of September. July was a real time to break down some of the disillusions we may have had. August is a time to integrate those changes from within. I, myself, and many people that I know have been experiencing purges, shall we say, on different levels. For myself, it's been food poisoning, which has been wonderful, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, as my own creative centre has cleared. And with that, there has come a lot of emotional awareness in regards to many reasons why I haven't quite manifested or changed or reached the potential that I'm aware I can. This week, that takes courage to admit. That takes discomfort to acknowledge. I myself am finding it very, for those that watch regular videos, finding it very unsettling to sit in front of the camera today, which is unlike me. Well, no, actually, let's be honest here. It isn't unlike me, but it's never stood in the way. This morning, however, that was nearly not the case. I spent quite a bit of time trying to set up my room, to get the angle right, the light right, to know that regardless, everything just keeps reflecting back into the glasses that I wear. So my options are to either remove my glasses, place myself in darkness, or deal with the reflection that is in front of me. And that feels really poignant again as we lead into eclipse season, but we also have the peak of the Lion's Gate on the 8/8 portal, and we also have a full moon the very next day on the 9th in Aquarius. There's a great deal coming to light in regards to our vision, but more importantly, how much we believe in ourselves, our place in it, and our ability to create whatever it is we are being asked to create towards it. One of the most important things this morning was to realise the greater intention behind this video, and that is, as always, to connect to the energies this week and how to best navigate them. Not to suggest what is to be done, but to witness them unfolding and allow the space. Again, I'm gripping my hands. Allow the space for whatever wishes to be born, seen and delivered through that potential. There's a huge movement coming with elements, our emotions, how we connect to them, how we create with them for the power that they are. And when that rises, it's going to be different for us all. But when that rises, we're all going to be encouraged to be a platform for these energies as channelers, as channeling in whatever is occurring. However, for that to happen, to be a hollow bone, to be a glorified toilet tube, to be a human vessel, whatever it is you want to call it, an artist, a creator, a guardian of such potential, we will be shown where we may not be allowing the flow of this through our bodies. And that can be for 1,000,001 reasons. This morning I realised that it was for a urge to protect this beautiful, incredible wisdom. And obviously my need to protect it came from the fact that I didn't realise that I was part of it also, which is where most of our control comes from. When we fail to see that we are part of the thing that we are infatuated with, in love with, protective of, longing to connect to, when we fail to see that we are part of that, there is a knee-jerk reaction to want to control it. Because we're separate, and with that separation comes fear and a lack of belonging or acceptance. And that ultimately this week is the energy that's trying to come through, no matter how uncomfortable it may feel, no matter how much is being reflected back, no matter how much we are being encouraged to sense into what is being purged from us, or the reasons why, or what is to come in the future. The importance here is our ability to witness ourselves and what is happening through our own process, to hold space for ourselves, to look at what that actually means. This morning I am wearing peacock feathers in my ears, and they were a gift from a dear friend of mine, a fellow Leo, a dear friend of mine, for my birthday in celebration of my arrival here. And I'm wearing them, and I'm very uncomfortable wearing them because I'm aware they're beautiful. And they really stand out. They really stand out, and they're very flashy, actually, very colourful. And I can really feel into the medicine of the peacock. For those that follow some of my posts, I found a peacock ore on the beach the other day and worked with it in ceremony, which is a stone, worked with it in ceremony, placed it back into the ocean, and embraced my own inability to connect to the worth, high vibration and sovereignty of my own soul. A lot of people will see me do these videos or anything that I offer, and because I kind of get on with it, they assume that I have no qualms, no insecurities, no doubts. And I'm continually saying how often I turn on the camera and never know what I'm going to speak of. I turn up at a workshop and go with the flow, and much as that may come across as very confident, there is still nerves there, there is still excitement there is still fear there. I'm continually suggesting where I lack things, not as much in balance with where with what I offer and who I am. And this week, that very much is the energy that's coming through. It's not about ego, which can make us all wobble a bit, myself included this morning. It's not even about humility, it's about humanity. It's about embracing our strengths as well as our weaknesses, really looking at our visions and where we may not have aligned, integrated everything that we've gained, everything that we've learned about ourselves. Yes, I am skirting around the issue, our own beauty, where we may be unable to see our own beauty. And the importance of that in the vision that we have of the surrounding environments, but also in what we share. That doesn't mean we're not going to wobble. You know, all the haircuts in the world, all the lip gloss in the world, all the great cameras, which I'm going to have to get a new one because this is just not working, all the great cameras in the world, all the external equipment in the world, doesn't mean that we're not going to wobble with our own level of confidence. And this week, what's really being highlighted is to keep feeling into the intention, to keep feeling into the vision that you are aligning with, whether that's for your family, for your work, for the collective, for the weekly videos, whatever that may be in what you're sharing. What are you aligning with? Really feeling into your frequency, really feeling into your vibration of that. So, in reality, if I feel into the energy that's coming through that wants to be aligned with it, it's ironic. I move my camera around and the only angle that I can get that works has a very clear picture of the crone in the background. If I feel into the energy that is being encouraged in me personally to align with, it is that of a more mature, wise woman. And I wobble with that because I don't see myself that way. I don't see myself as wiser or, you know, experienced or grown up. There's a big chunk of me that still sees myself as a child, and there's nothing positive or negative about that. It's more about our connotations of what we're aligning to. So in society, when we think of the crone, when we think of the wise woman, when we think of the menopausal years or the elder, we often think like this figurine here. We often think of the aged woman that, you know, needs apparatus to walk with, that is unseen, that is less attractive, that is, you know, burdened with responsibility, that has walked a path of I'm starting to wonder how many of these aren't true actually, that has walked a path of hardship. really feeling into our perspective of the vision that we're aligning to, and where there may be resistance because of how we view what we're trying to achieve. An example, for me, when I feel into a lot of the energy that's coming through, there's a strength there, there's a magnetism there, there's a beauty there, there's an attraction there, and a drawing of deep feminine sexuality and wisdom and power. When I feel into the version of myself that I know I need to integrate more with in order to conceive that, there are shadow aspects of my ego saying, who do you think you are? You're very full of yourself. Who else are we supposed to be full of this week, if not ourselves? Keep coming back to the intention. Keep coming back to your perspective and view of whatever you're trying to create. Keep coming back to what that brings up within you. Keep coming back to whether or not you're aligned to the highest potential of that. And it isn't about judgment, and it isn't about berating, and it most fucking certainly isn't about fixing. It's about acknowledging where perhaps the energy has shrunk within you, really embodying and embracing the reasons why, and doing it anyway. Because one of the things that will not solve whatever is occurring, but help us move through whatever is occurring, particularly as we go into 2026, the changing year, is to fully integrate the changes in our actions. Anything else on that? I think 11 minutes in, we will go into the original intention. There are a lot of distractions, not all external, not all made from out there. So the invitation this week is to really feel into what you would benefit from in being sidelined. What part of you would benefit from not achieving what you're trying to achieve? Okay, and there's compassion needed there, necessary compassion. It's not about judgment, and it's not about berating, and it's not even about making fun of it this week. It's about holding it with and when I say making fun, I don't mean ridicule. I mean, it's not about lightening up the situation this week either. It's more about embracing and holding it in that elder energy, in that future self energy, in that grandmotherly type energy. Only then will we receive the pride and the wisdom and the reflective beauty of a life that has been well lived and experienced and well loved, to hold us in our own perception. And with that comes I almost feel as if there's a blank now, like a blank canvas, like a blank sheet. And with that comes a invitation to truly move forward this week. And that actually was my own struggle with that language. Be very mindful of that this week. Be mindful of where we may change the narrative or the interpretation of the narrative because of how we are concerned, how it will come across, how it will be perceived. But actually the truth was, the guidance was, there was a high potential and possibility of us moving on. And feeling into the sadness that may come with that. The necessary grief that may come with that. That's what I was going to say. Having compassion for the part of you that wouldn't benefit from moving on. This week I run a creative expression session, and it was amazing in the local community, and with the food poisoning as well, with the food poisoning as well I did it. With the emotional awareness that rose as a result, I really felt into why I would want to run creative expression sessions, why it would be important for me on a soul level to help individuals work with their emotions, because the session was not about getting rid of them, and it was definitely not about placating them, but creating with them, with any trauma, with any quote unquote blocks. For me, as a child, I found myself surrounded by people that were unable to feel their emotions safely. or constructively in a world where they were not embraced. And this has had a knock-on effect throughout my ancestry that has caused a great deal of pain. So of course that's going to be what I want to do when I quote unquote grow up, help people with the thing that I didn't have. And we will find that this week a lot of the things we offer are an opportunity to always to feel into the medicine that we need. What I hadn't quite realised, or to what extent I hadn't quite realised the conflict that caused within me, that inner child that wanted this desperately for herself, for others, for the world, but also felt very insecure, very unsafe in offering that, and would benefit from me leaving it alone, from not doing it. This week, acknowledging any secondary gains with compassion. I know if I stand in my greatest potential, in that feminine power that wants to come through, in that sexual presence of raw, vulnerable beauty, there will also come with that an essence of feeling unsafe, an essence of feeling as if I have to fight to protect myself, based not only on my own journey but on the collective journey of the feminine also. And by that I do not mean gender, I mean intuition, I mean emotions, I mean creativity. How many times have we created something and not wanted to share it because it's not good enough? How many times have we suppressed our arousals because we feel shame or guilt? These are all aspects of the feminine. And the feminine is the primordial water. You know, when you think of the Wheel of Fortune as we go into next year, yes, it's elements, yes, it's emotions, yes, it's air and fire and water and earth and spirit. Yes, of course, if we separate it all, but it's the primordial waters, okay? It's essence of creation itself. That is the feminine. And if we feel into the Wheel of Fortune next year, think of the water wheel. How does the wheel move? How does change move? It needs a substance to keep that energy flowing, right? Now that could be love, that could be financial gain for you, that could be fame and glory, that could be family. There really isn't any judgment or any opinion this end, because they're all valid. I need to take that on board. Are they? So maybe some of the things I find very uncomfortable are what actually is going to move me forward, right? They are very, very valid in the bigger vision. If you think of the, Aquarius full moon, the collective bigger vision, a world that is abundant, well, in that case, we're going to need money, and we're going to need recognition, and we're going to need abundance and worth. And, if we're thinking about a world full of peace, then we're going to need healing, and we're going to need connection to ourselves, and we're going to need community. So all of these smaller visions on an individual level are all parts of this wheel of change that has this potential. And the reality is, when I feel into that, it's huge. It's huge. It also invites me to be huge. And with that, of course, comes a knee-jerk reaction of feeling where things could go with all creations, right? How often do we start something? It's gone very dark in my room. I was moaning about the light earlier. How often do we start something and stop because we recognise how much it's going to take, or how big it could be, or how far we are from what we're trying to achieve? When we become aware of our own potential, whether it's a child that's trying to come out, or a piece of art that we're trying to create, or a new job role that we're trying to fulfill, we become aware of where we are in comparison. When we see into the future, yes, of course, we become aware of where we are in the comparison of that moment, and then that can be a little bit frightening, because we are encouraged then to reach that, to expand through physical steps. If we take away the humanity, if we take away the ego, if we take away the physicality of it all, we are increasing the potential without a wheel, which is the last bit I want to bring us onto before I read into the energies. Next year, as we go into 2026, the most important thing to concentrate on will be the physical body. It is the wheel, okay? It is the channeled vessel. It is the creative source. It is the balance between heaven and earth. It is the, oh, there isn't any other name for it. The drum, yeah, the heartbeat of the earth. It is the very source of all potential. So this week in particular, being very mindful of anything that may come up in regards to your health and starting to put into place those steps. It can feel overwhelming. You know, I've started this diet and there's so, for me to get down to my quote unquote ideal weight, and even for my own ideal weight actually, there's a lot to be rectified. Bit by bit, 8 weeks in, keep going, you know, keep persevering with your own potential. And this week, by bringing it back to the body, realizing that this is going to be the very center of it all, health itself is going to take on a whole new level as we go into 2026. So anything that you're being aware of now, that little niggle, I might need to do this, I might need to do that, don't get overwhelmed by the bigger vision of it. Start small before the changes are done for us. That's the other side of the wheel, right? It is very tower-like also. The other side of it is we can keep getting these insights. We can keep seeing all these videos that say the same thing or read into the same energy, or, you know, these beautiful, beautiful glimmers, distractions, however you want to look at it, opportunities to return us to what we already know, whether that's a healing or a reading or someone we bump into, someone we see on the telly, a synchronicity, all these beautiful, beautiful things, these wonderful ways that are being communicated. What are we doing about it? What actions can we take in that moment? There was something else I was going to add to that and I can't remember. Again, there's that blank slate opportunity there. Trusting, and that I feel in my solar plexus, and that's the desire for control. Trusting in our solar plexus and in our creative center. The new way of manifesting that's coming in from the heart. Yes, our vision is going to expand. So is our ability to communicate through that vision. But the manifestation is and always will come from the heart. We just haven't quite realized that. Trusting whatever comes through. Trusting you share what is relevant in that moment. And whatever is forgotten is to be forgotten. Until, no, I'm adding that. To be forgotten. So before I look into the energies this week, and I really can't get over how dark my room has gone. Before I look into the energies this week, I'm going to pull a card from a deck from a dear friend of mine, from Nicolette Kaiser. Nicolette, I never know how to say your name properly. It's called the Ascension Animal Oracle. Excuse the dirt under my nails. That is from the garden. So why am I sharing this? Well, one, Nicolette is an incredible soul and her work is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. All of these cards are painted by Nicolette herself, channeled by Nicolette herself, who has had the bravery to follow a calling that she hadn't planned throughout her whole life actually, but in particular with these cards. And here they are in physical proof, physical manifestation of what it is she felt, what it is she saw. You know, it came down through her and she created with that. And that's really important as we go into 2026, that whatever ideas we're given to act on, that is the acting theirself that teaches us more about the whole process. When Nicolette first got the image for this on the front, it was when she began the Moon Eye Key. Neither of us had realized how much that small gathering would open us both up and the things that have been created from that. And I share that with all the pride and love in my heart for both our individual journeys and this far bigger vision. It's that's the key, the far bigger vision. For us, Moon Eye Key is very much about the power of love, which will always be behind what it is I share. This week, there's a great opportunity to feel into what is behind everything that you share. How is that expanded within you? How does it want to be expanded within you? And how do you create with that? Where are you perhaps lacking? I know that the love side of it, yeah, definitely, there's room for improvement in my own receptivity of that from myself. So really feeling into that with some honesty this week, you know, and it's not about digging too deep. It's not about, going on or fixing, just being aware. Just being aware, and then allowing things to move naturally, because that's the other side of next year. Things can move on their own. They do move. Okay, so we're going to have one card, this card. To the left we have emergence, and it's not about emergence. It feels important that it's not about emergence. It may feel as if something is being delivered through you. It may feel as if something is expanding outside of you and being reborn or reinitiated or re-brought up or recovered, particularly if we're seeing the same information left, right and centre from different people. It's not actually about that. It's about radiance. Now I'm going to share both images, because in the centre here we have that character right in the middle. In emergence, it's about the character, really, even though these other creatures are there. However, in radiance, it's about the light that they all share. Okay, it's about the vision, the heart coherence, what is being seen, what is being felt here. It's about our own ability to step into that radiance so that whatever wants to come through us can then emerge. It's about placing the vision at the center of everything we do. Excuse me, ourselves included, and how we perceive ourselves, in order for the very thing that we're trying to achieve to not only be attracted to us, but to resonate with us and then be born through us. So, Nicolette's words for radiance. Let me have a look. Don't expect things to be in order. They may not be. Or at least be more open to the order that you find them in. There's a real essence of divine timing and patience this week. So the key words here are unconditional love, a unified field, and a heart radiance. The being at the centre emits radiant spirals of light from the heart and hands. Yes, I thank you for that. So looking deeper beyond our own perspective of something as well. I hadn't seen the light in the hands, even though it's there everywhere. I hadn't seen the light in what was being done with the radiance in the action. So really seeking further information as needed. The whole point of having a reflection or a different perspective is to learn something different from what we've already seen, no? The tiger and lioness stand cheek to cheek in unity while the leopard rests gently on the shoulder. A mature winged owl watches from behind, holding deep insight. The entire scene is shaped in a glowing heart of forest light under a moonlit canopy. The message: your heart is the centre of the field. Let it radiate without condition, binding predator and prey in peace. You are a vessel of living light and love. Binding predator and prey in peace. Bringing together the fight or flight. You know, we would say, bringing down eagle into the space of jaguar, allowing them to rest, to settle. Heart spiral, unified compassion, radiant presence. And Nicolette has included affirmations here. So the affirmation: I radiate love from the core of my being, anchoring peace in all directions. And the guidance is to rest your palms on your heart, to breathe light into your center and let it expand outward in spirals. One of the other things that is really, really important in regards to the power of the witness, yes, of course, to acknowledge the power of the witness, but I mean, I can only speak from my own experiences, and that's the thing. None of us can speak from anything but, to be fair. Even when we're translating guidance, it often comes through our own experiences. Being aware of that this week. I've completely forgotten. There's that blank again, right? There's that blank. Yes, I get bored. I get bored with responsibility and my own perception of stability and dependability. I get bored with what I think it means to be balanced and calm. I can be very immature in my perspective of that. Very limited, shall we say. This week feeling into what it means to hold space, what it means to be a witness, and where in the areas of your life that you may not be doing that, and why. Okay, energies this week and how to best navigate them, because we are 30 minutes in. Right. Right at the bottom of the pack, the chariot, right? The chariot, the sun, and the tower. moving on from anything that doesn't bring you joy or light. Initiating those changes, making those decisions, feeling them within you. Can't believe I'm still sat in the dark after all of this. After all of this messing around, trying to get things lighter. Right, let's... No, see, even that, even if I adjust the light, you can't adjust. You can't adjust the light that you're given. Just become it, right? Just become it. Embrace it. Embrace the dark moments. Embrace the light moments. Energies this week and how to best navigate them. Right. Okay, so it's all about balance. It's all about reciprocity, but it's about recognizing what's behind it. Okay, so I know this is a theme that's been coming up a lot the last few weeks for people. And it's really important to recognize... I'm not going to go into the whole boundary malarkey. People know how I feel about that. Boundaries are a living entity. They grow, they expand. They are not a weapon to protect ourselves or to harm others. So it's not about boundaries. It is about balance and harmony. That is different for everybody in any given moment. What once brought you peace may feel stifling this week. What once brought you excitement may bring you anxiety this week. Recognizing your needs. What is behind it all? What is behind what you share? You know, this week I nearly cancelled the creative session because a lot of people couldn't attend at the last minute, and it really brought up this old wound of mine of there just being no point, that, you know, it's probably not what people want, and da-da-da. And it took digging deeper to realise that that, of course, is my knee-jerk reaction that the inner child in me can use to protect herself, so she doesn't have to put herself in a position where people may not be able to control their emotions. This week, really feeling into what is behind your actions. This is the Pentacle card, your physical actions, behind what you give, behind your ability to receive and nurture, but behind everything. If we can recognize our reason, our energy, our vibration, and the physical impact it has on our body, then that will balance everything. This so goes beyond boundaries, needs being met. Yes, they're indicators and they will show us where we're at this week. Dig deeper. Or not, but if you want the change, then you're not going to get it from the same answers. Okay, Monday, yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Overall, no major arcanas this week at all, not even in the overall energy for the week. This is personal. This comes down to the individual. This comes down to our actions, our responsibilities, and that can be a bitter truth to swallow. That can be really hard to look at, particularly if we're, again, and I get it, I've felt this way this morning, if we're so used to looking into the collective, if we're so used to looking into the expanded view of things, if we're so used to looking into synchronicities and signs and information, this week the universe's guidance is, and what? We can be given all of this information, but how do we apply this to our life? How do we take what is being offered and act on it? On the Monday, overall, we have the Knave of Chalice, the Page of Cups, and I wanted to share this to almost soften the blow. Be aware that this week there is an opportunity, but also a desire to soften things. That doesn't mean to negate things. That doesn't mean to ignore things or placate things or bypass or project things. The Page of Cups is very much about seeing the fish in the cup, about seeing the Christ consciousness in every single molecule of that primordial water, ourselves included, about seeing the potential in everything that we feel, everything that is being reflected, everything that is being carried, but not letting it be the be-all and end-all. It is a small cup of what is available there. Taking only that we need. That's what I hear this week. Take only that we need. And that comes not just with physical actions, but spiritual connections and collective views, synchronicities, information, emotional overload, and our own belief systems, our own reactions that have perhaps been handed down to us ancestrally or by society itself. I saw this most incredible thing the other day by a therapist, and they were suggesting that the emotions aren't too much, it's the stories that we put around them. And what those stories do, yes, of course, they speak of our experiences, but do they truly honour our wisdom from those experiences? You know, do they truly, the inner child in me finds emotions and people unable to hold space for them frightening. The adult in me continually reassures her that here we are at 46 years old, having survived some incredible expressions of that. And we're still going, and better yet, we're helping others with it. So this week, recognizing where we may have doubted our own abilities because the stories have become bigger than the wisdom that we have gained from them. Remember everything that we feel, you know, that feeling of tapping into the feminine wisdom and the power. Yes, of course, I'm aware of my own, but I'm also aware of the collective of that, and it's huge. But I'm not being asked to carry the collective. None of us are. We're not being asked to carry the whole vision, whether that's giving up smoking next year, whether that's losing weight in X amount of months, whether that's creating a whole new community, whether that's changing your job role, regardless of what that is, whether that's finding your soulmate. We're not being asked to carry the whole vision in one go, but to be aware of it and just act on what we can carry in every moment. Cutting down on our smoking, eating one less fatty meal, you know, maybe going to different areas to find different people. Don't get thwarted by the magnitude of your potential this week. Soften it. Have some fun with it. Have some innocence with it. Which is hard, right, in the world that we live in. But you're not asked to carry the world. You're not asked to heal the world. You're not asked to, especially not by focusing on the external, you're not asked to figure out what's going on in the world. Or most definitely not until you have cared for yourself, figured out what's going on for you. Everything that you see is going to be based on your internal perception. Acknowledge what that is first. So on the Monday we have the Ten of Wands. It is all coming to a head. You know, we had Lamass the other day, and there's a big movement of harvesting and what we have gained, and we may not feel as if that's quite in the way we would have expected. Things have changed, and we're going to be shown that over the next few weeks, just in how extremes have become the normal. And that's not to say that we're desensitized, but that our ability to cope with them is increasing. Come the Monday, we may feel that pressure to try and figure things out, to try and see where everything is going, to try and manipulate the situation, and that's going to become overwhelming. It's going to actually block our vision. So it's important to really look at spiritually on the Monday what we're carrying forward, where that's come from, and the impact that that has or has had from the generations before us and to come. You know, it's not just about this one thing that we want, it's about everything else that's left behind. Being mindful of that, not getting caught up in just the one aspect. On the Tuesday, we have the Seven of Wands. I'm being made mindful that Mars is doing something before the full moon. Be aware of that. Be aware of how our ambitions and our passions and our energy is changing. So one of the things that I feel when I step into that feminine energy is there's a more raw animal type instinct there, and yeah, there's an urgency there within me to try and control that so that it's not too much. So being aware of that, being aware of what you're defending from within your actions, what stories, what narratives, what view of yourself are you defending? The truth of the matter is our potential doesn't need protecting. It just needs expansion. It doesn't need boundaries. It needs freedom. Creativity doesn't need direction. It needs a flow. There's a big difference, and on Tuesday we may feel that. On Tuesday we may almost feel as if we're being attacked externally, and it's an invitation really to look into what is going on from within. On Wednesday we have the Queen of Pentacles, and there is here a need to turn ourselves away from situations that are no longer abundant. To ground into our physical body for the truth that it brings, for the fortune that it favors, for the vision that now needs us to decide. Okay? I don't want to grow up. I don't want to be serious. I don't want to be full of responsibilities. However, if my vision, if what I've been given throughout all my experiences in life suggests now is a time for me to integrate a different type of energy, then I will commit to that and dedicate myself to my own divinity and turn my back on the things that are no longer supportive of that, with gratitude for all the direction that they've brought. And that is the opportunity on the Wednesday, to recognize that that is the most nurturing thing we can do. Here you can see actually that Six of Pentacles has become the throne. It's become what is behind everything. To recognize that the most nurturing thing we can do is to be of service to our vision, to whatever it is we are trying to create. That will restore the balance. So if your vision is one of giving freely and you find yourself holding back, you're not in alignment. If your vision is one of strength and endurance and physical health and you're sat in a fast food restaurant, you're not in alignment. And on the Wednesday, yes, there could come some harsh, but no less necessary truths in that for the nurture that is required to move on now. On the Thursday, that brings the Five of Swords. That brings the mental foresight actually to recognize that certain things, certain structures that no longer fit, that will be destroyed. They will crumble. The 5 is the midpoint of change. Whatever happens on the Thursday, remember, whatever is going on, there is change afoot. Change is being developed in our mentality, or needs to be, on the Thursday. And that can bring, yes, a storm, but after every storm, there's a clearing of the air. And that's the opportunity on the Thursday, to lay down now any beliefs or systems that no longer work for us and take forward a mindset that is going to rebuild our more stable foundations. On the Friday, we then have the Five of Pentacles. Once we start to bring forth that change mentally, of course, we get the turning point with the actions, with the Five of Pentacles. Here it feels ancestral. There have been things that have been carried and honoured, shall we say, honoured down the family line, that were there to bring hope and to bring faith and remembrance of the blood, the primordial water that flows through generations. The stories were never meant to cause more wounds. The narratives were to nurture and to bring us home to our own essence. They were never meant to leave us barren, desolate, and alone. Being aware of the collective energy was never meant to separate us from our own individual humanity. Any religion, any beliefs, any faiths were never meant to separate us from our own God source, but unite us to our divinity. And on the Friday, we may be shown where that needs some reevaluation. On the Saturday, we then go from the Queen of Pentacles on the Wednesday to the King of Pentacles on the Wednesday. And what I love here is it's really important to look at what we focus on the Saturday, because there's a heron, great symbolic of birth. There's something here which I have no idea what it is. I'll look it up in a moment. Being aware of the things that we may not understand, giving it time to look into it if we want to, but not getting too caught up in it. I'm aware of the grapes that have grown. I'm aware of the crown. I'm aware of the pentacle that is now, rather than being shared, on the king's lap there if needed. So they're being more balanced there. But what I'm more aware of here is the same character in the 10 of Wands in the background. The same reason, the same impact, the same vision. Whether you find yourself on the ground working or stood back and witnessing, whether you find yourself being recognized for what you do or unseen, whether you find yourself in a leadership position or acknowledging that every position is a leadership in the great visions that wish to be created and born. Every place is as valuable as each other. I need to look up what that actually is on the King of Pentacles, that little gold thing. Allowing that you don't understand to guide you, also to take you on a new journey of discovery and insights. King of Pentacles. Oh, it's an overturned basket, really. Means that the gifts from this animal, the stalk, a symbol of fertility, have been placed in the soil and made it productive already, as shown by the ripe grapes near the bird. So anything that is happening this week has already been in motion, has already been planted, has already connected to us on a physical level. It's down to us now to tend to whatever is being grown, ourselves included, that version of ourselves included. I don't have to make a big song and dance about the raw feminine power that's trying to come through. It's already happening. I'm becoming more and more aware of it, her, us, with every day that passes. I just need to tend to the body that it's going to come through, like us all. On the Sunday, we have the Four of Swords. We have that opportunity to rest here. And when we rest, when we take a moment to allow our mind to embrace something new, because it's mental rest here, not just physical, even though it's portrayed with a knight that's lying down. It's mental rest because of the sword energy. When we rest our mind, something different can come through that we may have been running around trying to find, that's going to make everything so much easier. For me, there is a dragonfly here, which is change and transformation. There's a butterfly here. Yes, this again, change and transformation. There are the fact that it's inside the church that we saw with the Five of Pentacles. It's the other side of it. So it's the other side of having that hope and that faith. There are people here witnessing the character resting, being reborn. There's the importance of that also. But in this deck, which is why I like using the Tarot of the New Vision, in this deck is something I've never seen before. In the stained glass window, you have St. Francis of Assisi. St. Francis of Assisi working with animals, which is very, very, very poignant for me personally. And it's important to recognise the messages that are for you, also for others. Why is that important? Well, one, they're there for us to receive. And often when we push aside what is for us individually, when we are unable to take on board the wisdom that is coming through, we fail to recognize our own path, we fail to recognize the reflective beauty, and we separate ourselves from what we're reading into. We become individual in a shared vision. So when I read for somebody, I'll always be able to feel if there's stuff that's very relevant between us, and from that I recognize that this person has picked me for this reason and me for them, and there's a far beautiful creation occurring. When we take ourselves out of that, when we disassociate from the divinity of it all, ourselves included, it can be a very lost experience. Oh, there's much more light. A very lost experience and a very lonely place. We are not above the information that we share. We are not above the wounds that we work with or help others to heal. We are not better than anything that we are trying to achieve. The more we can relate to that, the more we can resonate with that, the easier that's going to be. So for me personally, to see St. Francis of Assisi working with animals, yes, it speaks of the collective one step at a time energy. Yes, it speaks of the collective needing to tap into our own emotional power and animal instinct and Selka, the undomesticated version of ourselves. For me, it speaks of my yearning to work with animals that has always been there, that is that bridge between myself and my inner child that could move us both forward. So by the end of this week, finding something that not just soothes your wounds, but helps you to create something beautiful in their place, to really harvest your human experiences. That's how the soul grows, not by separating from them or disassociating them or healing or fixing them, but by feeling them, by really appreciating and receiving their wisdom. That's why we have a body. Okay, I nearly packed them up. I nearly wanted it all done, and there is that energy this week. So being mindful of that, but they're allowing the last bits to unravel is going to be key, so that we can get some kind of structure and movement forward post full moon. Being aware that the bigger vision is going to be more readily available by Sunday because of that full moon and the 8/8 portal, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we will be ready to act on it. There are things to bring to completion, to harvest before then, if we are to step into the energy that is required to deliver said vision. So we have one cup card. Interesting, because it feels like quite an emotional week, but actually that's our thoughts and our spiritual energy combining and needing to be balanced in our actions. We have one cup card here, and it is the Knave of Chalices. It is the Page of Cups. What I'm being drawn to see now is the empty shells on the beach and how it matches the rope around his sacral. All the empty times something has tried to be created, now being washed up to remind us of all the moments we didn't quite get what we were trying to achieve, and the impact of our expectations that now has on our ability to freely express from that creative center. Allowing the healing of that this week. It's that that's coming to light. Allowing, oh, my light just flickered on. Allowing that healing to come through. To recognize that each part of it has been a stage towards it. And I think back to, if I could say to my inner child, everything that you're going through, you will help others with at one point. I mean, obviously we can't, because that wouldn't have left me free enough to experience the situations in their rawest present state. But that's not to stop us doing it now. That's not to stop us sending that loving energy back to the version of ourselves that may have questioned what we were doing when we were doing it, or why things were happening when they were happening. To take a moment this week to really feel into where we are and send all that love and gratitude for what we have gained back to that version of ourselves that first heard the intention, that first made themselves open and vulnerable and raw enough to receive what was needed in order to get us to where we are. We then have two wand cards. It feels like there's so many more elements to it, but there really isn't. 2 wand cards. So the balance comes in our ability to carry and protect our vision. If we're doing it from a defensive state, it's going to become overwhelming. If we're finding ourselves feeling attacked by our vision, not feeling worthy enough or able to hold it that's going to blind us to what's really being grown here, which is ourselves and our own spirituality. It is coming to an end. The endurance of that is coming to an end, dependent on how well we can stop fighting who we came here to be. I was going to say, no, I'm going to say from a human level, purely by recognizing who we are in each moment. And that feels important to remember the importance of your human understanding as well. Okay, to respect it. We then have 2 sword cards. So the balance again comes from our mindset. And it's, yeah, I'm undecided what order I want to put these in, the 5 or the 4. What comes first? The destruction of something and then the rest, the breaking down of what we thought was going to happen and then the surrender, or the surrender and then the collapse of it all. Well, that's entirely up to us. That's entirely down to our ability to listen into our animal instincts and to work with them rather than trying to control or domesticate them. That comes down to seeing the mind for the intuitive, direct channel that it can be, taking time for that, allowing space for that to bring the hope that we've been searching for. We then have 1, 2, 3, 4 pentacle cards. So the stability or the restriction can come from our physical actions depending on what we do with it. And we have the 6 of Pentacles, the Queen of Pentacles, the 5 of Pentacles and the King of Pentacles. To one side, yes, of course, it is about balance. It is about harmony. It is about what we get and what we receive back. It is about finding out what's behind it all, the flow. Is it going to be generosity? Is it going to be witnessing? Is it going to be leadership? What about it being all of the above? Sometimes when we separate the vision, when we separate what we offer, when we separate who we are, we get into this real poverty mindset. I have to choose between this or this. Come on, guys. Expand the vision. Expand yourself. Break out of this box of it having to be one way or another. Maybe, just maybe, there's another side to it. Maybe, just maybe, there's another side to you. Take care, and I shall see you next week.